Hi, everybody. So the other day, I made a video that was like, hey, read a book. And then I didn't actually give any book suggestions, which was kind of dick on my part. So I'm going to start a little series of book suggestions for you all that might help on your path to becoming more sovereign and having a better relationship with your craft and the spirits around you. And also just like, what are you interested in? I have a lot of areas of interest and I think I have some good books, so I'm just going to suggest those to you. It's going to be so much fun. Okay, I don't know why my face wants to be a fucking freak, but it is. Okay, so I will do that now. So to start this series, we are going to go into the distant past. And I'm going to talk to you about the PGM, or the Papyri Graeco-Magicae, which is the Greek magical papyrus. And that is largely where a lot of these ceremonial magicians got their ideas. Especially like the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn and people like that. They were definitely influenced by it. And it's the oldest existing magical document on our planet. If you are interested in ancient magic and the grimoire tradition, definitely pick up a copy of this book. Grimoires: A History of Magic Books by Owen Davies. Owen Davies is probably one of the best occult historians today. I absolutely love everything he does. So this book talks to you about the history of grimoires and also kind of illustrates why the grimoire tradition as we have it today is absolutely incomplete. Because a lot of those books, so grimoires, in that tradition, a book itself had power because it was handwritten with sacred inks by the magician who was creating it. And the book itself was said to have a lot of power. And a lot of people kept their own grimoires and would copy things down in different ways. And a lot of them became kind of scrapbooks for different works. But during periods of persecution, a lot of those versions of the grimoires we have today were destroyed. A lot of them were burned, or in other ways, gotten rid of because they were too dangerous, according to whoever was in power at the time. Or too dangerous or too evil. And so a lot of those really interesting personal accounts of these magicians are just totally lost to time and we'll never get them back. Because, people in power are often frightened little, whatever horrible word you want to put in there. Okay? Insert horrible word. I have several, but I don't know that, I should say them on a film. So anyway, if you're interested in the history of grimoires, this is a fantastic book. If you're interested in the history of the occult at all, Owen Davies, anything Owen Davies does is pure gold. Okay? All right. Then, of course, there are some of the older traditional books, like this one. This isn't the best translation of this one, the Grand Grimoire or the Red Dragon, but it's something. And it's good. It still has all of the ideas. I'm pretty sure this is actually where we have the first mention of like a horned god in a Christian, like the Christian description of a horned god. I think this is one of the first places we get it. Even though it looks like he has little dicks on his head, I think they're supposed to be horns. And then, of course, you have... this pile has other stuff in it. Like the Solomonic magic. This is the 3 magical books of Solomon. The Testament and his greater and lesser keys. This is not the same as the Lemmageddon. The Lemmageddon is the 5 books of Solomon, which are the Ars Gotia, the Ars Theurgia Gotia, the Ars Paulina, the Ars Notoria, And the Ars, is it the Ars Almadel? I don't think it's the Almadel. The Almadel's in another book. I think the Almadel is in the 4th book of Agrippa. Either way, anyway. So, like the Solomonic tradition, it says that it goes all the way back to Solomon. It doesn't. Most of this stuff was written in the 15 and 1700s. So just keep that in mind. There is this tradition in magic of pseudoepigraphy, which means that you give credit for your work to a more famous historical personage. So there are books, like in the Judaic tradition, there are books that are said to have been written by Adam. Or like a really popular one is Rabbi Akiba from the first, I think it's the 1st or 2nd century. So a lot of people would just say like, well, this person wrote this book, so you should pay attention because it's written by this really awesome, important, magical fella. Often, almost always fellas. So some of the authorship of these books is lost to antiquity. It stays anonymous. The 3 magical books of Solomon and a lot of Solomonic magic were actually written by various sorcerers and magicians and just codified into these books and given the name Solomon. And like all Solomonic magic is in an Abrahamic tradition. It's all Abrahamic magic. And actually all of the grimoires are in an Abrahamic tradition. So a lot of these grimoires that we see in European traditions were actually kind of co-opted and culturally appropriated from Arabic and Hebraic sources. And so a lot of the magic that you're working in these grimoires is actually Arabic or Judaic at its root, and then codified by Christians doing magic. And so whatever you're doing in these books, it's Abrahamic. You're not getting outside of the Abrahamic tradition by working these rites. They are within an Abrahamic tradition. So just keep that in mind too. If you're trying to get outside of the Abrahamic tradition, then you're going to have to go outside of the grimoire tradition. A lot of the spirits that you meet are older, and they're just given kind of an Abrahamic guise, and you can get through that to a degree. But these rites are Abrahamic, so keep thinking about that. Another one that is really important to the traditions as we have them today is the book of the Sacred Magic of Abramelin the Mage, as translated by S.L. McGregor Mathers, who is one of the heads of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. Total nutter butter. Absolutely nuts, but also kind of a genius. Total fucker, also a genius. But this is an important book, especially in the occult traditions of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, of the OTO, of Crowleyan magics, particularly with the drawing forth of the Holy Guardian Angel, or the rite of the conversation of the Holy Guardian Angel, the rite of the Bornless One, of the Headless One. Like, there are lots of different names for it. But it's basically coming in touch with this great entity, which may be your higher self, maybe not. Maybe it's like the daimon of Plato. Maybe it's more like a ascended master, or like, whatever. I have no idea. But like for me, the Holy Guardian Angel is more like the most, I guess it's not even the most sovereign self. I think that it's kind of the conduit through which the most sovereign self can speak, kind of like the Metatron in a way, but also, like, that's just my opinion. There are lots and lots and lots of opinions on that. But this is an interesting book. One that I really like, and was actually one of the first grimoires that I ever got, was this one, the Magus by Francis Barrett, which is just kind of an overview of different occult stuff in the 1800s, like 17 and 1800s. This is a Kabbalistic table. The right table of the commutations. Which is like a giant magic square. And then you can see like there's alchemical and occult sigils, that kind of stuff. So this is actually a really great book. You can see he has the sigils for the planets and their magic squares and how to draw their power into a talisman and that kind of thing. Very interesting stuff. And it has a special place in my heart because this is like the first grimoire that my family bought for me. And this is actually not my original copy. This is my grandfather's original copy, which I inherited from him, and I just like it. But that's his book plate that he drew. Isn't that fucking cute? Oh my god, I love it. But I love that I got his copy. This is probably the most famous. This is another one of the... I think I actually got this for the same birthday. The Magus and the Lesser Key of Solomon the King. This is the one that a lot of people start with when they're doing grimoire magic. Talks about like the use of virgin parchment and bat blood and to hinder a sportsman from killing any game, just in case you're a king trying to protect your forest from poachers. How to make the magic garters. There is a whole tradition of magical garters in Europe. So like in England there's actually a whole order called the Order of the Garter. Look into that. But this also, like, this has all of the Solomonic sigils and like protection, banishment stuff. Like if this is what you're interested in, like how to create these sacred tools, your tools do not have to look like this. They can look however you want them to look. But when I was little, I was like super into the idea that they had to look exactly like that. They don't. If your sword is made out of a butter knife, okay, I'm not going to tell you not to. Grimorium Virum, the True Grimoire. This one is another interesting one. Again, I'm not sure that this is the best translation, but it's actually a pretty good one. So you can see all this cool stuff. So if you're interested in the grimoire tradition, there are like a fuck ton of different grimoires. There's also like the Sworn Book of Honorius the Mage. There is the Lemegeton. There are, or maybe it's Lemegeton. I don't know. I've heard it pronounced different ways. There is the Picatrix. That's another really famous one. Probably the most famous is the Clavicule. And if you were part of the Spanish clergy or Italian clergy or like any clergy, particularly in Spain and Italy, this was probably one of the books you kept hidden somewhere. And there are so many accounts of priests being, priests and other members of the clergy being accosted and like, you're doing magic! And they find the Clavicule and then burn it because they're jerks. Another really important one are the 3 books of occult philosophy by Agrippa. And then this one is the 4th book of occult philosophy by Agrippa, which is only partially written by Agrippa. The 3 books are absolutely written by Agrippa himself. There he is. Honor Cornelius Agrippa. Powerful, important magician. And when you think of magician, think scientist, like early scientist, doing stuff with science and magic. But you can see he wrote of geomancy and the 4th book of occult philosophy, but then the other books in here are like magical elements by Peter of Abano, astronomical geomancy, the nature of spirits, and the arbitel. Okay. So in the Lemmageddon, it is the Ars Almadel, and then in this book, it's the Arbatel. Sorry, I got those confused. But if you're looking into Agrippa, that's also a really great book to be reading. And then someone that was really influential on him was Trithemius. You can find the books of Trithemius. You can find the books of Pseudo-Dionysius. And a lot of these you can find free online, particularly at sacredtext.com. It's sacred-texts.com. And they have a lot of really cool, well-translated free PDFs that you can take a gander at. So those are some of my book suggestions for the grimoire tradition. If you're interested in that, definitely get a copy of this book because it's going to help to keep you grounded and honest. And anything by Owen Davies, read it. Perfect, perfect, pure, pure gold. I'll see you later. Okay, so as an addendum to the grimoire video, if you're going to be doing practical magic, I really suggest that you get some of the works of Israel Regardie. The main one is The Golden Dawn by Israel Regardie. This is a complete overview of the systems of the Golden Dawn, which were all of their rites were practical magic and based in the grimoire traditions. And he talks a lot about tarot and Agrippa, the Kabbalah, spirit summonings, everyday practical magic. It's an awesome book. If you're doing grimoire stuff, you should definitely be looking into this book. And then the two other books by Regardie that I would suggest are A Garden of Pomegranates, which goes over the Kabbalah, the Kabbalistic systems of the Golden Dawn, and how Crowley looked at it. Israel Regardie was actually Crowley's secretary for a little while, and so he was pretty well versed with Aleister Crowley and the rites of practical magic. He was also a psychotherapist. I believe he was Reichian, and so he just has a really interesting, level-headed way of looking at things, and I really appreciate it. But if you're going to be working with the Golden Dawn, I also think that getting a copy of A Garden of Pomegranates is a good idea because it goes into the Kabbalah more in depth. And then The Tree of Life, A Study in Magic by Israel Regardie, which also is interesting and goes into the different exercises, his experience. It's kind of it describes what practical magic is like and his personal experience with it, and I really appreciate it. Also, in any of these books, read the introduction because the introduction is so important and sets the stage for any of his works, where not all introductions do that. Israel Regardie was really good at doing that. So anyway, if you're researching the grimoire tradition, Israel Regardie, Owen Davies, and then any fucking grimoire you can get your grubby little hands on. Okay. Bye.